What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. I am going to pause the music before we get into the analysis, but you guys, we're going to go over the short-term time frames, where I see the price of Bitcoin going. Are we done moving higher before the halving, or do we have a little bit more to go? And how much is that little bit? We're going to figure that out. Stay tuned. Hit that like button. Let's get to it. All right, I'm going to pause the music so that we can stay focused, a little bit focused. All right. I know it was just jamming, man. It's really just jamming. Hold on, had to make sure that we're okay there. All right. Okay. I'm going to delete something real quick. Hold on. I don't need that plan. So looking at Bitcoin on the daily time frame, you guys, we are reluctant to show the bears any love. We just can't get below the 40. We've dipped below the 50. Yes, we're showing a little bit of flirtations with prices below the 50, showing a little weakness, sure, but that is also coming in the format of higher lows and consolidation, right? We're in this somewhat of like a symmetrical triangle. I've seen a couple people draw this. I drew this before I saw anybody. I'm not saying that I drew this before anybody. I'm just saying before I saw it being talked about more commonly throughout like a lot of different channels and stuff like that. You know, I've been aware of this as well. I feel like that sounds weird. I'm not trying to say that I saw this first. It's not. I'm just trying to say that I see a lot of people talk about it. We've been aware of it as well, and it looks like we're still in this channel. We just found support on it, looking like we're going to potentially break out to the upside. We'll see. Generally speaking, I think it's 70, maybe it's 75% of the way through a pattern that you look to break out. And assuming that we formed this pattern not back here but back here, it's debatable that we could have formed it back here, but we didn't have our high until here. So I would say we've been forming the pattern since Thursday of March, Thursday 14th of March there on the daily. The apex would be right here on the 22nd of April, and that would be 39 bars. So 39 bars, essentially 70% of 39 bars. What would that be? Or 75% of 39 bars. Essentially like 30, right? A little bit less than 30, right? So around there. Let's just see where we're at now. We are on our, right? 30, because, yeah, I think that's right. So we're probably around 70% right now, but just around 70%, not over 75%. Let's look. I actually want to do this real quick. Calculator, Google Calculator. 39 times 0.7 equals 27.3. Well, we're on our 23rd day right now, so we could continue to go essentially until the 10th of April. It might be sometime in the second week that we break out, but in that time, you know, maybe we move up, maybe we move back down, and then we come back up and break out one more time. So essentially we could see Bitcoin consolidate for the next week or two. But again, this is just the ideal kind of time frame that you would expect a pattern to break, is within the first 70, I think it's 70%, but some people say 75%, so whatever. It can go a little bit past that, but oftentimes it's not at that point in past that you break, it's before that point that you would break it. So it could break on this next attempt up just as likely as it could find, you know, resistance and then go back up. Just because we find resistance here does not mean that we have to pull all the way back to the bottom of this line and find support. We could, but we don't have to. We could absolutely like resist, find support down here, not even touch that bottom line, and then break out. I do anticipate that we'll break out higher. And the main reason for that is we have yet to see the halving happen. I do think that once the halving happens, we will see a bit of consolidation, a bit of a pullback. I could be wrong. We could potentially pull back now, but I want to pull out a couple of details that make me think otherwise. So first off, let's see, maybe not the RSI. It's just the fib, yeah. High to low, cycle high to cycle low, previous all-time highs to the current cycle lows. We demolished the 618, the golden ratio. We found support on it afterwards, backtested it, and have since moved up higher. Very key significant level that we broke was here, the 886 at $58,204. We broke through that. We demolished that price. And now we are hovering at the 100 level. This is a really, really good look, you guys. This would imply that the next place, the next destination before we see some kind of significant consolidation phase. And we've absolutely been consolidating now for about a month, a little bit, maybe a little bit over a month even, about a month. But before we see a consolidation phase, it's like this, or potentially even as long as this, something that's like a whole like quarter of a year, more or less, something like that, you know, like 3 to 4 months time of consolidation would likely be after we see the 1272. Technically, the 1272 to the 1618 would be the target area to look for, but I don't think Bitcoin's going to run up to 130K in the next like month or two. I don't think that's going to run up to 173K in the next month or two. But genuinely speaking, as crazy as it sounds, I know a lot of people, man, there are so many bears out there. There are so many people who are bullish, but they don't see 100K happening this year. I'm not calling for it to happen just this year. I'm calling for it to happen before the end of May. Like before, and probably I would assume even before the halving. It's that, like literally that soon. You guys, we're about to see fireworks explode up to 100K, and it sounds crazy coming out of my mouth. It's really insane, because what would that would imply that Bitcoin by the end of April essentially moves up another 51%. You guys, we haven't seen a week that's grown more than 22%. We only have like 3 to 4 weeks left of April to go. I mean, that would imply that we see some solid growth week after week throughout this month. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's absolutely possible. And it really does depend, all back to what I was saying in the beginning, what we do with this consolidation phase here. If we break out to the downside, okay, this is clearly wrong. If we break out to the downside here, then instead of seeing this long phase of consolidation that most people are anticipating, it just depends on where you're anticipating it coming in from, then it would happen here. It would happen here. We'd probably move back down, you know, potentially down to 57K, potentially down to 50K itself, maybe lower, who knows? You know, if you look at this for what it's worth, a lot of people think Bitcoin would be dead if we went below 50K, that the bull cycle would be over. But if we draw kind of a straight line, I'm not going to draw it. I'm just going to use a straight line. Oh, did I pause the music? I did. Okay, good. A straight line from this low here to that low, essentially. You guys, we could pull all the way back down to the 618 at $39,000. First off, that would be a higher low, low, higher low, actually low, higher low, higher low. And then it would be another higher low, and we'd be bouncing off the golden ratio, which all of those things are good. It's all very healthy, bullish stuff. It would scare a lot of people. It would shake a lot of people out, but absolutely we could pull all the way back down there and still be fine for the cycle. Absolutely we could. Okay. I don't think we're going to go down there, but I'm illustrating that as a point that if we were to reject this area, that it's a complete possibility. A lot of people aren't even considering this. It's like we either hold 50K or we're dead. It's no more bull cycle. But we've definitely got solid bouts of support down there. At least in my opinion, we do. It makes sense, you know. Whether you want to use the fibs, which would make sense to me, or you just want to look at the price action as a whole. And I mean, maybe that's not even drawn completely accurately. Let's see, something like that. You know, that's a lot more clean there. Again, you know, if we were to find a low even in June, that'd be at 40K. We could go all the way down to 40K. We're fine. It's okay. I don't think that we're going to, but we'll see. Time will tell. If we look at the weekly RSI for what it's worth, we've been overbought for quite a while. We do have 2 peaks up here, but there is no bearish divergence. We could absolutely find support here and go higher. To be completely fair, I don't think once in Bitcoin's history, BTC's history, that we have found support in this area. Ever. We found resistance in this area a couple times back here in the early days, and even like right here and right here, you know, giving the notion that we could close this week down potentially a little bit, or next week down. You know, we could go a little bit lower on the RSI first, but you know, it would be a little bit unprecedented to find support here in the overbought zone and then continue higher. But it's also pretty unprecedented that we are above the previous all-time highs before the halving even. A lot of people have an issue with the liquidity, with the volume for BTC, and I don't get it, because as we're growing, as we're getting new highs, we are growing in volume as well. It doesn't make sense to me. I think it all looks fine, honestly. and this consolidation does look rather bullish to me. It's a neutral pattern, this symmetrical triangle, and being that it's a neutral pattern with a bullish beginning, bullish price action leading into the pattern, that would tilt it a little bit in favor of the bulls. But again, it does depend. If we were to look at where we could potentially break out from, essentially, this month, let's say it was like 66K. If we go below 66K, it could be all over, but we'll see. We have wicked a little bit below this. This isn't like the absolute tightest pattern, but it's still pretty tight. Over the coming days, within the next week or two, if we were to go below 66K, 58 or 65.8K, that area, that could look bad, but we'll know. Just draw these lines, pay attention to them, and when we get a breakout, we'll know the directional heading that we're going for. Now, absolutely, we could move up and have a fake out and then move down. That could happen. That would be somewhat of a double top, actually. We could also do the same thing to the downside. We could, have a fake out to the downside and then move up. If we were to draw this line here to that line, pretty damn accurately, actually, we could find support on this line as well, but hard to say. We won't know until we do it. For now, let's just call it a symmetrical triangle. Let's wait to see what happens. It'll probably be another week or so before we get this breakout. And inevitably, if we do what I think we're going to do, based off the fibs, based off of what we're seeing with price action taking place, based off the RSI, I would think that we're moving up to 100K by the end of this month, as crazy as that sounds. And the reason I say by the end of this month, and I know that that sounds crazy, being that we're at 68K now, I'm talking about 100K by the end of this month. The reason why I believe that that is what's going to happen is because I don't see a scenario where we will continue to grow at that kind of rate after the halving. After the halving, generally speaking, we tend to chill. Let's just go back in time real quick and look at that BTC on the index here. Let's see. First halving was in 2012, November. We chilled for 1, 2, 3, 4, even 5 weeks, and then on the 6th week we really started to go. So that was about a month, right? Didn't really move back, but just we were very boring. First halving, okay, kind of oddball out. The next halving was in 2016, where here it was in July. Yes, it was like this. So we had a dump going into the halving. We pumped going into it, but then we dumped as we were going into the halving. The halving happened. We moved down for 1, 2 weeks, found our low, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, a ton of weeks, months worth of price action that we were boring and consolidating. The last halving that we had was in May. It was like May 11th. I forget what it was, but it would have been around this week. We were boring for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 2 to 3 months. And then even past that, we moved up higher, sure, but we were essentially consolidating for months. So I don't see a scenario where every single time we've at least consolidated for a month, if not longer, dramatically longer. I don't see a scenario where we would continue to grow to the price areas that the fibs are allowing, that are calling for after the halving. I just don't see that happening. So looking at it again from what I started with, from cycle high to cycle low, from my understanding, from my knowledge and experience with the Fibonacci retracement tool and using the extensions based off of that, when you break through the 618, the golden ratio on the first pass, the likelihood of seeing these extensions goes up tremendously. I'm talking about 80+% chance that you will see these inevitably. Now, when I say that, that doesn't mean it's going to happen immediately, but inevitably. It's inevitable. When you break above the 886, that's when that immediately starts to come in. And we're on the weekly time frame. It has been 5 weeks already, but I think another 5 weeks or so, maybe 3 to 4 weeks, we could be up here. And I don't see us going to 128, but man, this is BTC, this is crypto. You can see things happen, crazy things happen in a short amount of time, especially in unprecedented times just like this, where we are forming higher volume. We are at new highs before the halving. Things are looking really good. We got the ETF approved, all kinds of things. So as crazy as it sounds, I might be the only person in crypto calling for it, but 103K by the halving. It's a tall order, but I think we got it. The fibs are calling for it. And if I'm wrong, that's okay. We'll go down. Crypto will go down. It'll give us an opportunity to buy more coins. and we'll just have to be patient for these prices to inevitably happen, because again, breaking above the 618, let alone coming back to find support on it, which we did do, right? I'll blow it up a little bit so you can see. It's a very, very bullish indication. I would be incredibly surprised and thrown off. Like it could happen. Anything can happen. We don't have to see these prices, but based off the fibs, guys, we have a very, very strong likelihood, a very solid percentage chance of seeing these prices happen inevitably and beyond. I think Bitcoin's going to go all the way up to its 2272 at $462,000. I'll give a quick little reason as to why that is, and then I'll end the video there, just so you're like, what the hell, this guy's crazy. If we look at the first all-time high, very first all-time high to the cycle low that we had, and I think that's a safe all-time high to take. We moved up, first bull cycle, first bear cycle, very small. We went up to the 2272. We actually went just above it, 2272. We go to the next cycle high, we take the next cycle low, cycle high to cycle low, just above the 2272 again. Again, that's twice, okay? And then this time, the last cycle, we did not hit the 2272. We actually stopped off at the 1618, okay? The 1618. So the minimum target, and we actually went just above that as well. The minimum target so far out of every cycle, which has only been 3, this is the 4th cycle for Bitcoin, the only minimum target that we would have would be 173K by the end of this cycle. And I don't think we're going to stop there. I do think we will see the 2272 and actually just pass that. So that's 462,000 just past that is that nice psychological number of $500,000 at 500,000. We're at 68,000 now. I've been calling for this price since we were down here, guys. I very much do believe that that's going to happen. What was I going to say? The reason why I think we're going to do that, we're not going to stop at the 1618 like we did last time, is because we do not have quantitative tightening. We do not have the Federal Reserve. It's essentially the same thing. The Federal Reserve causing rate hikes, interest rate hikes. We're not going to have that. We haven't, at least this whole year so far. There's talks of cuts coming into play. If a hike happens, that'd be very surprising, but I think we are at the precipice of seeing cuts come into play. Risk on investing and spending will come into play as well. We don't have COVID. We don't have the dollar, the DXY expanding. The dollar, just so you know, as confusing as it might be, or as unbelievable as it might be, during COVID times, during the whole Ukraine-Russia conflict, during the high inflation times that we experienced during the last cycle, the U.S. dollar performed better than any other currency in the whole world. Like literally, I think the Mexican peso and the Russian ruble performed better for a brief amount of time, but overall, during that whole kind of world economic impacted time frame where Bitcoin was near its top and then forming its bear cycle, the U.S. dollar did very well. It was in an expansion phase, and you can check that out yourself if you want to go to the DXY and compare it. I'm not going to do that here because I want to end this video, but it went through a very large expansion phase. You can see it here. It topped off in September of 2022, okay? December of 2021, it was in the beginning of its expansion phase when Bitcoin was at the end of its bull cycle. So we don't have that going on now. The dollar is in a consolidation phase actually right now, and it's likely going to be in that throughout the whole bull cycle. So we've got a lot of things besides just that going for it. And that's why I don't think we're going to stop at the 1618. I think we will, as we did the previous 2 cycles before last cycle, I think we will go to the 2272. But at a minimum, 173 doesn't sound bad. 173, 174K doesn't sound bad either. So either way works. If you liked the video, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you all for coming. I will see you on the next one. Take care of yourselves. And yeah, that's all I got. Bye-bye.